Hey everybody, I'm John Rourke, Editor-in-Chief of Phoenix Home and Garden Magazine, and we're here to introduce you to one of our 2023 Masters of the Southwest inductees, interior designer Wendy Rodgers. Hey Wendy.
Hey John, how are you?
I'm good, thank you for letting us into, this is your own home here.
This is my home, yes.
And your own lakefront home. This was one of the homes that was featured on our home tour.
Yes.
And so you've kind of, if I recall correctly from your profile, you've been kind of created the reputation as being not the lady of the lake, but something along those lines.
Like
so you used to have a house across the way that we published a number of years ago. Then you finished up with that one, came over to this one, started over. Tell us about the inspiration for this house.
It's an occupational hazard to keep doing houses. I can't help myself. I thought that one was going to be my final resting place, but it just doesn't work that way for us. And then I've done 2 spec homes on the lake, in addition to that one and this, and then another client we just finished that was also in your magazine.
Okay, and you've done a lot of world traveling.
Yes.
Correct. So, and this house was inspired by Bali, is that correct?
Yes, I went on a trip to Bali with a very dear friend and her daughter and my son, and we surprised them in Bali. Oh, what a trip. I had never been there and fell in love with the whole country setting, tropical feel, and just decided that since we're on the lake here, this one could possibly be tropical, modern, whatever it is.
And it's a little bit of everything.
It's a little bit of everything. My designs are always eclectic. I just can't seem to stick to one style.
And to me, that is the mark of a very good designer. It's not about you, it's about the client. So none of the projects of yours that we've published and that I've seen, there is no common thread. I mean, they're all beautiful, they're all fairly open and airy, but it's not like there's a stamp that says this is clearly Wendy Rodgers.
Thank you. I would hope that would be the case, but you know, I think it's because I like so many styles and I get to experiment on clients as long as they're willing, and if they're interested in trying out new things, I love that. But truly it is all about the client and it's what they want. It's not my home, it's theirs.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you were in corporate communications for a while for Best Western.
Right, their international headquarters in Phoenix, and I did that for 13 years, and that afforded me travel around the world constantly. I was never home. So it was a great experience to get to see the world, and I always loved architecture and design. So for me, it was just absorbing all that everywhere I went.
Okay, and you published a couple of maybe more than 2 coffee table books?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, when I was working in the industry, one of the publishers of a magazine had just spoken to Rizzoli, and they had asked him to find somebody to write a book on hotel architecture and design. So of course, when he came to me, I said, absolutely, but I've never done this before. So it was a little scary, but also really challenging and fun, and I loved it. I had already been to most of the hotels, and then I had to go travel to some of the other ones to write about them.
Okay.
So, but that was a while ago. That was fun.
That is fun. And speaking of unusual projects, we cannot have this conversation without talking about some very special projects that you did for a client out of state. Tell us about those.
Well, it actually started here. He owns a home in the Boulders, and they asked me to do their home here, and then their home in North Carolina, which I helped them with. But he owns a regional railroad, and he started buying vintage cars and
vintage railway cars.
Vintage railway cars,
okay.
Yes. They call them cars, but
okay.
Yes. So he invited me out to see a couple of them, and I started on 2 very old ones, one from 1918 and one from 1920 something, I can't remember. And then he bought this dome car, and it was stripped to nothing. It was steel inside, that's it. Flew me to New Orleans, where he was going to have it rebuilt so he could hook it on to Amtrak. And I looked at it and said, well, this needs to be Art Deco, and had to explain to him what that was, but he let me go with it, and it was really fun.
So you're dealing with a very finite amount of space, and didn't it had multiple bedrooms on it, didn't it?
Yes, 5 bedrooms, 90 feet by 10 feet is all you get to deal with, and we ended up with 5 bedrooms and then a dining dome above, a bar, full-on kitchen, crew, bunks, everything, washer dryers, you name it.
And it's not like you can't expand beyond those boundaries. There is no wiggle room.
There's nowhere else to go. So you design them totally differently. Like the walls are 1.5 inches thick. It's not very thick, and you have to get plumbing and you have to get electrical into these. So there's new products that you use. And I looked to the yachting industry because I knew they had to do things in small spaces as well. So a lot of the ideas I had were from that.
And then do you have to, because when those objects are moving, everything needs to be able to give and take, I would imagine. Is that true?
That's true. They go 90 miles an hour. So the products, I had to get them all approved by the owner and the engineers and various people because I'm not sure what can survive 90 miles an hour. Which tiles are going to make it through the bathrooms. We've had a few cracks here and there, but pretty much of it survived. So they use it often, and they hook it onto Amtrak and go wherever Amtrak goes.
That's fantastic. So this is kind of a two-part question. So how did your training up until that point serve you in that project? And then what did you learn from doing those cars that has served you in projects since then?
To answer the second one first, it's efficiency. You have to be able to get a closet in 7 inches. And they are used to doing that on a private rail car because they know everything's going to be small and tiny. And then storage is a very big challenge. So all the furniture that I had made and upholstered, the seats lift up. You can store wine in the seats or under the beds. You put suitcases. All that was fun. And I've done AutoCAD for so many years that for me, it's fun, and I like the precision of it, and therefore designing each of the rooms and knowing exactly to the half an inch where we were going, to me is like a puzzle. It's a challenge, and it's fun, and I really enjoyed it. And since there was no architect on the job, I had to be the one to figure that out. So that was really fun. Okay,
so you got to flex those other muscles as well.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And speaking of fun projects, I just thought of this one. So you had many hands in remodeling, redesigning the Wrigley Mansion.
Yes, oh, that was great fun. I have always loved the Wrigley Mansion since I was young and saw it. And Spanish Colonial Revival is probably my favorite style. So when I was asked to remodel just this one library and turn it into a bar, I thought, this is great. I wish I could do the whole house. But as soon as I finished the bar, she said, well, now the whole house has to be done. You just embarrass the rest of the house. So
right.
It was great.
And how long of a project was that?
We had to do it only in the summertime when they were closed.
Right.
So it was probably 4 years, but we'd gather everything together during the year, and then the construction workers could come in June, and then they closed, I think, through July.
Okay.
So it was just summer.
All right, and we published that story a few issues ago.
Yes.
Yeah, earlier
last
in
summer,
the
I think.
I don't remember, the time has flown by, but fairly recently. So what's next on your dance card? What's coming up for you?
Oh, we have lots of projects. Just finishing up a wonderful home in Paradise Valley, and then we've got a remodel of a home I worked on years ago in Ahwatukee, and now we're redoing the kitchen. That was the only room we didn't do. Then we have a home up in Flagstaff in Forest Highlands, and we've got a kitchen in Desert Highlands, and then some other new construction projects that are just starting.
Well, I'm grateful that you were able to carve out some free time for us today.
Always.
Congratulations on the award. Again, the Masters of the Southwest issue is on newsstands now. You can meet 5 incredible individuals, including Wendy Rodgers, in Phoenix Home and Garden.